Ready when you are.
Voilà.
Yes.
Alors, donc, déjà un énorme merci de ta participation. Tu parles en français?
Ben, je suis obligée. Ben oui, mince. Je me tais.
C'est cool. Elle parle en français.
It's okay.
Oh, sorry.
We flowed it with the energy.
Yeah, it's already. Whoa!
She translate me in French.
It's all good. I'm getting it. Je comprends.
I don't understand.
I understood.
Oh là là, pardon. Alors, je recommence. Alors, un énorme merci de participer à cette aventure avec nous, comme tu le vois, qui est très très fun. Vas-y, Séverine.
Okay, I'm going. So she's thanking you for being here for this adventure, and as you can see, it's really fun.
Oh là là,
Yeah.
excuse-moi, mais j'ai un fou rire là. Désolée. Alors, on va commencer d'abord par une interview de toi. Et ensuite, les participantes du programme pourront te poser les questions qu'elles souhaitent. Et moi, au moins, je pourrais souffler un peu.
So we're going to start by interviewing you, and then there will have a space for participants to ask you questions. And during that time, Julie can have a break and laugh maybe.
She doesn't have to stop laughing. Ever.
Oh là là, j'adore le début du Zoom là. Merci Séverine. Alors, alors, Siris, ma première question était comment décrirais-tu ou présenterais-tu la Siris d'aujourd'hui?
So how would you describe or introduce the series of now?
I love that question.
Thank you.
Today,
Yeah.
hi everyone. I'm so glad we started today with laughter. That's my preference every day. And yes, I'm a business owner and I have multiple businesses, and all of my businesses are about that, the joy, the laughter, and actually having people connect with their bodies more and with their businesses, including the business of living, so that they can have more nurturing, more dynamic, and more fun relationships with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
First, please, what would it take? And with others, including their children. So I work very closely with children and families in the homes, online, and in schools. And I also do a lot of classes around the world, workshops to teach teachers, parents, and individuals that want to come together and have a different possibility with their bodies. So a lot of different things, and that's just today. Let's see what else shows up.
Donc, de ce que j'avais un peu lu, tu étais, je crois, logopède, c'est bien ça? Tu travailles avec les enfants en particulier, hein, je pense.
I think I got it.
Oh, okay. So, okay, I'm
go
saying
ahead.
He was asking you if you were working with kids. Logopède, c'est la thérapie par le jeu, c'est ça? Parce qu'elle est aussi orthophoniste et thérapeute du comportement alimentaire, par exemple. Aussi.
D'accord.
C'est la question.
Yeah.
Mais si elle travaille spécifiquement avec les enfants ou avec les adultes aussi?
Ok, d'accord, donc c'est ça que je
Mhm.
sentais. So do
Yeah,
you work
so
especially
children
with
and
kids?
adults.
Voilà.
Yeah, the whole life spectrum. Because here's the thing, and for all the parents on here, they'll know this right away. When you work with your child, when anyone interacts with their child, they have to work with you too.
Yes.
And part of how I started getting into the work where I was more and more in the home and not so far away from the parents in the schools was because I wanted more access to the parents. I wanted more access to the adults that are going to be the advocates for these children their whole lives. And so I started in the schools, and I was just like, this isn't enough. I need to talk to their first teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And the first teachers are the parents.
Parents, yes.
Yeah. And so when I'm working with the children from birth through teenagers, I always want to have access to the parents. I have parents that text me at midnight. I have parents that email me or send me photos after I'm done giving direct services to their kids. They still send me photos years later. Look at him now. Look what he's doing. And that's through the parents.
Mm-hmm.
They're the channels for the kids. They are the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And more, I try to step away and step back so that the parents are empowered to know what they can do with their children. If I see a child 1 or 2 hours a week, even if I'm the one giving the direct services, they're with their parents hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
You multiply that over a week and then times 52 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's way more powerful than me.
Mm-hmm.
And then over 20, 30, I'm almost 40, and my mama still introduces me as, and this is my oldest baby. It doesn't end. It just changes.
Merci. Hier, en fait, on a eu Marilyn Bradford et on parlait des addictions. Et en fait, ce qui est ressorti, c'est que ça peut être une addiction aussi de vouloir être le parent parfait. Qu'est-ce que tu penses de ça, en fait?
So yesterday, there was the conversation with Marilyn Bradford about the addictions, and Julie would like to know, what do you think about the addiction of being a perfect parent? Because it was a subject that was coming up a lot.
That's a big one. I actually get that it starts with being addicted to being a perfect person first. So when a parent is focused and stressing out and worried about being a perfect parent, it didn't start the moment they had a child.
Mm-hmm.
It probably started way before that. I was that as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to be perfect. And there was a lot of control with that. And it was an illusion.
Yes.
Especially with everything I was trying to control outside of me. There are things we can control. Here, our bodies, us, our thoughts and feelings and points of views, when we have tools for how to do that. I didn't for most of my life. So grateful that I do now.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm dedicated to the children of the world, I had an addiction to perfection when I was a child. It started there. And so for a lot of the parents, I address that because a lot of them have this anxiety when they come to me. They're blaming themselves for what's going on with their child.
Mhm.
And so when anything is quote unquote wrong with their child, it's their fault. Instead of what if there's nothing wrong with your child? And two, what if there isn't anything wrong with you now and there never was? And even when other things showed up in your life, what if none of that is anyone's fault, especially not your fault?
Mhm.
A lot of my parents, because they come to me and the kids are diagnosed with so many different things, they're looking for whose fault it is. And as soon as we get away from looking for the fault, we're not actually trying to be perfect. We're not actually trying to blame. We're not actually trying to control the things we can't control. And we start to look at where I invite them to look at, which is, okay, what's possible now? What can we actually do now? And what can we actually be with your child now so that they know that they're loved and that nothing's wrong with them and that you have their back no matter what they choose. And they probably aren't going to choose what you want them to choose most of the time.
Souvent, très souvent.
Sometimes.
Always.
Always they're not choosing what you want them to choose. That's some kids. That was some of my siblings for long periods of time. And then it shifts. And part of what helps it shift faster is not judging them or you, while also empowering them to know what that's creating. And if that's what they want for it to create, okay, keep doing that. But if you don't like that it's creating fill in the blank, maybe choose something different.
Mhm. C'est comme on disait hier, en fait, c'est arrêter de se sentir obligé de les contrôler, mais plus leur apprendre à prendre conscience d'eux. Par exemple, c'est chaud, tu peux mettre ta main, mais ça va brûler. Enfin, vraiment plus dans la conscience et moins dans le contrôle.
So what we were saying yesterday, it was more about stop trying to control them and instead being in consciousness and showing them, giving the information like it's hot. You can put your hand, but if you put it here, it's going to burn. It's going to it may be painful. So letting them, giving them the awareness, the information, and the choice.
Yes, yes, which is very similar to what I was saying. Okay, what's this creating? You're going to get burned. Are you okay with that? I have adult friends that love getting burned. So that's their thing. Okay, cool. They love fire. They love the sensation of the heat on their skin. If that's okay with them, cool. But they know.
Yeah.
And if they don't want that, I have other friends that would hate that. Okay, then they'll have that information and then they can choose with that additional awareness. So I agree with that, absolutely, that not trying to control them, but at the same time, knowing when they do require more information. And giving them more information without judgment, without a freak out, without the fear. And it's information that is actually true. A lot of my parents, the first couple months that I'm working with them and their children, we're detoxing all the things that they were told when they were about to touch something, choose something, do something. And their parents were like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is going to happen if you do that. Is that true? One example. My grandmother freaks out with the ocean. Well, used to. Now she's let that go. When my mom would go and step into the ocean when she was growing up, as soon as the water got to her, like maybe her knees, and that's high, probably even lower than that, my grandma would be like, okay, that's enough. The sharks will get you.
Oh,
Right? Well, right there. We don't want you to drown.
à cette hauteur.
Yeah. So then fast forward, my mom marries my father, who's a lifeguard and an avid swimmer, and wanted to just throw us in the water before we even knew how to swim, okay? And she didn't want to pass on the fear. She knew it was a lie. And until she got to a place where she didn't freak out herself, she let go of control and sent us to take swimming lessons with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was our graduation day from swimming class. And we were like, Mommy, could you come and watch us? And we're going to get our little diploma and little, something small, not a big deal. But for us, it was like, oh, wow, we're done with swimming, right? And so the whole time my mom would just drop us off. She wouldn't stay in the classes because she didn't want to pass on the fear that she knew was a lie. But until she could get to a point where it didn't affect her, she didn't want to bring that up so then we would be aware of it and then kind of latch on and lock it into our bodies. Now she doesn't have this fear, by the way, which is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so she shows up at the graduation, and we're in the water and we're waving and we're splashing, and inside everything in her is like, ah! But outside she's like, yay, girlfriend, wonderful, bravo. And so that's what we teach a lot of the parents, what I teach a lot of the parents to do, was to recognize the difference between what we were told that was true, that works for us, and what we were told that's a lie. And then what do you do in that middle ground where you know it's a lie, but it's still freaking you out or it's still affecting you, but you don't want it to affect your kids? It's almost this pretend to be what you would like to be, and then you become it. Parents are amazing actors. So are kids too, by the way. And we can use that to our advantage to empower the children to outcreate all of those points of views that we were told that weren't actually true. And then our kids start showing us a different possibility. So me choosing beyond all that fear helped my mom let it go. She kept, every time I chose to not let anything stop me and to be brave, I invited her to do that. And every time she did, and she said, this is coming up for me, but I'm going to choose it anyway, she invited me. It's both ways. It's a giving and receiving. And that's the case for me with all of the families and the kids that I work with. It's every time they get a new achievement, I'm achieving it too. But many parents think they have to just give, and they don't get that their kids are actually giving to them in way more than the affection and the love and the things that we're told as parents and as teachers that they give us. They can be so much more possible.
Yes.
Like what your kids in the bed right now, they're contributing.
Yes, I know. Alors, je continue. Je voulais savoir si tu te rappelais le moment où tu es sortie la première fois de ta zone de confort et comment tu t'es sentie aussi.
Do you remember the first time you went out of your comfort zone, and how did it feel like?
Gosh. Interesting. interesting. I feel like I'm constantly, even at a young age, that was one of the things that's different about me is I'm always moving out of my comfort zone. I actually spoke about this, I think, to Severin earlier this week, that I perpetually live uncomfortable. And so I'm clearly remembering I had just moved from Puerto Rico, where I was born, to Chicago. And we're on the beach in Lake Michigan. And I was by myself. My sister, she has spina bifida, which is a congenital disorder. And she wasn't very mobile at the time. And I wanted to play in the sand. And I see this little girl, couple, yards away, couple meters away. And I tell my parents, hey, can I go play with her? And they were like, they looked at each other and they were like, okay, yes. And I went and I asked this girl that I had never met or known before in this life, right? Hey, do you want to play? And I would do that all the time to strangers, constantly. And there was an excitement. A lot of people confuse excitement and like nervousness. And they'll make it into, over time, they'll lock it in and convert it into fear and think that that's fear. But from a very young age, I was just like, worst case scenario, they say no. And they say no. And I've gotten lots of no's, but I've gotten way more yeses. And one of the things that reminded me of this is I was taking a Right Voice for You class with Christopher Hughes and Andrew Gardella, both wonderful facilitators, and a class that I highly recommend for anyone. Amazing. And they had us do this exercise where we went up to strangers and we asked them questions that we assumed we would get a no for the question. Most people won't tell you no. They'll say, oh, hold on a minute, or let me see what I can do. There's so many more people willing to play with us and create with us and contribute to us than we realize. And so I recognize that at a very young age. And for me now, it's more not like, oh, am I going to do it? It's being more aware of who is actually more willing to receive that or not. But like Severin knows, she's known me for a while now. I'm like, let's go. Let's just see what happens. Like, I'm willing to fall on my face. I'm willing to be judged now. That's the other thing. I never thought I would be judged for asking someone to play and be my friend. Now it's more, now when I was in high school, what really pushed the boundaries, and I posted about this recently, was when I talk about things that make other people very, 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 very uncomfortable. I talk a lot about sex. I talk a lot about sex and children. You see? Very uncomfortable.
Yes.
I talk a lot about sexualness and sexual energy in children.
Yes.
I realized that my top 5 or 6 YouTube videos are all about energy and sex and kids in some way. That's what people know. No one else is willing to really talk about this much. And I am, and people look for it and they're like, how do I talk to my child about sex without ruining their sex life or putting all those lies that I learned on them? How do I nurture my body after having a child? All these different things.
ça choque moins en fait d'entendre sexualness et enfant que sexe et enfant en fait. C'est surtout ça. Sexualness, ça me choque
It's
pas,
different.
mais
Yeah.
sexe, c'est... Bleh.
Okay,
But here's
so
the thing, even that is an interesting point of view.
sorry, I was saying. Do you need me to translate this, or are you good, Siris?
I would like, just in case, yeah.
Yes, so Julie was saying that for her, sexualness and kids, two energy that are two. This is two things that are she's okay with. It's ease for her, but sex and kids, there's something for her. It's not comfortable, and there's an energy.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's what I got when you said that. And even then, that's where I come in. Because there's kids that are masturbating at a very young age. You know, there's newborns that are doing it.
I know. My son, 6, yes.
Yeah, and then how you talk to them about it in a way that lets them know where it's okay to do it and how to do it, and without feeling shame, without feeling like they need to broadcast it to everybody either. So it's like, oh, where are they allowed to do things? And that actually applies to everything with behavior that I do with kids. Is a lot of parents say, no, don't do this, don't do this. And kids want to do it more when you tell them no.
Yes.
Just like, somebody tell me no right now. Watch what happens. But if you tell them what they are allowed to do, what they can do, where they can do it, it empowers them to consider all the different options and feel like it, and also avoids and prevents them from feeling wrong, from feeling judged. But a lot of this, again, like you asked me earlier, am I just working with the kids? A lot of times the kids don't have all these points of views. I'm working with their parents to see, have they experienced any abuse? What were they told when they were masturbating as a child? If they even remember, you know, all these different things, so that they can get very clear on, again, what's true, that they might want to tell their child, and what's not true.
J'ai une anecdote, moi, c'est juste énorme ce que tu dis, parce que ça fait remonter énormément de choses chez moi. C'est mon petit garçon à 6 ans, et en fait, pendant tout un moment, je le voyais faire, et donc je suis râlée, je dis ça se fait pas. Quand il était plus petit, il le faisait devant la fenêtre, devant les ouvriers, donc ça fait remonter énormément de choses, je trouve. Je te laisse traduire pour l'instant.
So she was saying that this conversation is making, like, it's coming up a lot of energies, like her boy is 6 years old and he was masturbating even when the workers were here, so she was not at ease with that. And est-ce que tu as dit que tu râlais? Oui, c'est ça que...
En fait, ça me choquait. Je lui disais, mais en fait, je lui ai appris, je lui ai dit, tu peux faire ça, c'est ton corps, il t'appartient, mais fais-le quand tu es tout seul. Et en fait, ce qui s'est passé, c'est qu'une fois, je l'ai vu faire, j'étais au PC et je l'ai vu faire devant un dessin animé et je me suis énervée. Je lui ai dit, ça se fait pas, tu arrêtes, tu vas dans ta chambre, tu t'amuses tout seul, quoi.
Ok. Okay, donc je vais traduire ça. She was saying how she told him that this is something you have to do. It's your body. You can have fun like this, and
in private.
When you're in private. And once he was masturbating, watching the TV, and that's where she was getting angry, and she told him, you have to go upstairs and in your room alone.
And that's going to stop him from going to jail. This is important information. You know, like if it's in his own house, fine, and there's no one else there. But if he's in someone else's house watching TV, that's not going to work. So you're preparing him for life. That's great.
Et en fait, maintenant, ce qui arrive, c'est des fois, il ne le fait pas que dans sa chambre, il le fait à la télé ou aux toilettes, mais en fait, il me dit, maman, sors, je veux être seule, je veux me chipoter. En fait, je lui dis, arrête de te chipoter. Et donc, il me dit, maman, sors de la pièce, je veux me chipoter. Au moins, il me renvoie. Mais c'est comique, quoi.
So now she's laughing because now he's asking his mother, okay, Mommy, could you go out now? Could you leave the room now? Because I need a moment to like, he's not saying masturbating, it's saying another words, but this is exactly what it means.
That's so empowering because then he's learning how to be discreet.
Mm-hmm.
And the world can use a little bit more discretion. He's learning who he can talk about it more explicitly with and who doesn't really need to know the details, including his mother. That's great.
C'est ce que je lui apprends en fait, que ce soit à la petite de 2 ans ou à lui, je leur dis c'est votre corps, vous faites ce que vous voulez avec, mais personne ne peut le toucher et personne ne peut vous demander de toucher, ne serait-ce qu'un adulte ou quoi que ce soit. Je leur explique vraiment que le corps de quelqu'un appartient à lui, il fait ce qu'il veut avec, mais que mutuellement les gens n'ont pas à faire des choses indécentes, enfin je sais pas comment on dit.
Okay, so she's explaining to her kids that this is their own bodies, it's their own bodies, and nobody else has to touch it, or so there's a difference between having fun with my own body and with someone else as a kid. If someone else is touching my body, it's not okay now, or you have to think about it before. Do you want it or not?
Can I add one more thing to that?
Yes.
I heard the word choice too that you said, and it's great that you're teaching them and telling them that they have a choice now, because they always have and they always will if they know that. And I'm glad you're letting them know that. The other piece that my mom did from a very young age that was very empowering, and I'm so grateful that she did this, is also letting us know there may be some adults that tell you, don't tell your mom such and such thing, or I'll kill her, or I'll hurt your siblings, or something like that. Different scenarios. And my mom, both my parents are teachers, so they were very aware of the different things that could happen with that. And they were willing to have these conversations with us. I mean, when I say young, I mean like even at 5, we were having these talks in an age-appropriate way. You add more detail as they get older. They don't need to know the full everything right then. So she said, go ahead and say, sure. Yes, I won't tell my mom. Say whatever you have to say in that moment, and then you run and you tell me and I'll kill them. She's like, they say they're going to kill me. No, I'll kill them. And if you ever meet my mom, she is the sweetest, most generous, happy person you will meet. And you don't want to mess with her. Because as soon as she's mad, oh, is she potent and powerful? And you're like, and she was that energy with us when she told us to do this. So we were very aware. Oh, yeah, nobody's killing our mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's obviously a lie if anyone says that, because nobody's killing our mom. So if we're willing to be that energy for our kids, when maybe we're reprimanding them, when we're talking about these scenarios that a lot of people avoid these conversations, and then their children it's not that it's their fault, but they're not empowering their kids to be aware of some of the situations where these could happen, or maybe that it's their friends. Mm-hmm. For me, it didn't happen to me, but I was aware my other friends were getting molested. And because I had the conversations with my parents, I knew what to look for, and I could actually help my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a rippling out effect. It's not just about your kids. It's all the kids that your kids interact with and that could interact with in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So every time I talk about sex and kids, it's almost like as if I'm not going out of my comfort zone. I'm very aware that I'm inviting other people to go out of their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
To get to your other question that you asked about how is it for me when I'm moving out of my comfort zone and when was the first time? Almost my whole life, I've been aware of other people's comfort zones and being like, hey, come over here. Let's keep going a little bit farther and a little bit farther. And it's getting intense. And a little bit more. Okay. And I know. It's so tempting. We kind of want to take a break, but just go and keep a little bit more. Yeah. In some ways, I wish that I had more examples of me, of where it feels like it's actually me getting out of my comfort zone. And there have been, I'm sure, like with travel and anytime I'm in a new job or a new home. But that's almost always where I function from. And I think that if more people were willing to be uncomfortable and just keep moving through that, we'd have a very different world.
Mm-hmm. C'est clair. Ok, thank you. Il y a encore 2 questions que je voulais te poser. C'est de quoi te sens-tu capable maintenant que tu ne te sentais pas capable avant?
What are you able of right now?
What are my capacities now that I didn't have before?
Yes.
Yes. Where do you feel you can dare of doing something? You dare to do something, whereas before you were not. You wouldn't dare.
I wouldn't dare being interviewed. I used to stutter with public speaking. Okay. I was always very social and always wanted to be around friends and family, to the point that it became a crutch. Mm-hmm. And I actually never let myself be by myself for most of my life. And I realized it was this fear of being alone. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I stopped judging myself and making everyone else's stuff mine, like I needed to be the perfect friend and the perfect daughter and the perfect granddaughter and the perfect sister, like we were talking about earlier. Well, to do that, how I defined it, it included being around them all the time to control and know what was going on in their lives, so I can get it fresh, that fresh information. And then I moved away from doing that and started enjoying my own time more and more, and doing a lot of self-care and nurturing of my own body. And to the point that now I am very picky about who I spend my time with. That being said, if I was outside of friends and family, if I had to speak in front of a crowd, even though there's people, right? That's, you think, oh, people and people, same. Nope. I would start stuttering very intensely. No other situation did I stutter, but with the public speaking I did. And so maybe this is another example of pushing through the comfort zone. I'm not sure I would frame it that way, but I was like, okay, this isn't going to work for me. I want to be able to speak everywhere with ease. And even before I chose to become a speech language pathologist, I chose to take public speaking classes. And I worked on it, and I practiced and I practiced, and I would practice in front of a mirror, and I would prepare speeches, and then I would write it down, and then I would rip it up and and just show up and see what happens, and different strategies to let me be more willing to stand in front of a crowd vulnerable and have people ask me questions or see what would show up and what I would say. And now I can talk to anyone, anywhere, and I still stutter sometimes. I still do. But I'm not willing to let that possibility of me stuttering stop me from showing up and talking. And I think that invites people to know that they don't have to be perfect to be seen, to have their businesses grow. When I work with kids that stutter and I can stutter with them, their eyes get big. They're like, you get it. You understand what we're going through. And I was like, yeah, and check this out. And then I stopped stuttering and they were like, whoa, if you can stop, maybe we could stop, you know? And so if you had told me when I was 15 that I was going to be interviewed on radio shows and facilitate classes with multiple people, you know, online and in person, strangers, as much as anyone is a stranger, I would have been like, get out of here. No way. I'm very happy that I get to do this now.
Et de quoi ne te sens-tu, enfin, j'aime pas le mot pas capable ni incapable, mais de quoi ne te sens-tu pas prête ou pas capable actuellement pour l'instant?
What do you feel? Is there anything you don't feel ready for, or you wouldn't dare to do?
Ready for, it's more like it's not the time. Like there's certain things that I actually would like that I know it's gonna happen, it's just not the time. Like I'll be buying some properties in the future that will be a center for the community and for families and children. And I get that that'll be in the next 2 to 5 years. Now, there are probably things I wouldn't do, but it's not because I don't dare to do them. It's just I'm not interested. So, like, I've gone skydiving. I've done zip lining. Yeah, those thrill-seeking things, like, oh, I could climb Mount Everest. Do I feel like climbing Mount Everest? Not really. Like, it just doesn't interest me, but it's not from a fear. It's not because I don't think I could do it. It's more like I'd rather use that time and energy to something else. Yeah. Now, this kind of gives the impression that I never have doubt. So for me, fear has never really been a big distraction or a consideration for me, but doubt has. And that's often the case for many of us if we let doubt stop us. And then what tools and strategies do you use to move through the doubt, to get clear on, okay, what's going on here exactly? What do I do here? And a lot of that for me was people would say this, and then I was aware of the energy underneath, but I would still fixate on the words. And a lot of us was like, oh, you know, I'm saying this to my child. Why aren't they doing it? Because the child is paying attention to the energy underneath. And it does. So, for instance, my mom used to tell us, I would like you to cook and clean and know how to dress yourself, because I could die tomorrow. At any moment, I could die tomorrow. And not a month would pass that she probably didn't say this. She said it pretty often.
Mhm.
When I tell other parents that my mom said this, they are like, oh my God, your mom created so much fear in your world and all this worry. That's not what it created.
Mhm.
My mom said this.
Mhm.
The energy was, you got this.
Mhm.
You'll be okay. You have all the skills to thrive if I'm here or not. And while I'm here, I got you and I love you and you can count on me. But I also need you to count on yourself.
Mhm.
It's a very different energy than if some of my other parents would say, you need to do this and this because I could die tomorrow, and they're wringing their hands and they're shaking and there's all this fear in their world. My mom didn't say it with fear.
Mhm.
She said it from a space of kindness and caring.
Mhm. Ok. Est-ce qu'il y a une question que tu aurais aimé que je te pose et que je ne t'ai pas encore posée?
Is there any question that you would have liked me to ask you and that I didn't ask you yet?
That's a great question. I'm really curious about the people who listen to your show.
Yes.
And what they're looking for, what they're asking for from themselves and from their relationships with their children, for those that have children. There may be people that just care about kids or work with them like me, and they don't have them, that they've birthed them in the world in the same way. So I'm curious as to what's in their worlds, what's going on there. Asma?
Essaye. Je parle français, comme ça on traduit. Pour que ce sera easy for me. Du coup, moi aussi, je suis intéressée par les enfants. J'ai pas d'enfants. Pour le moment, j'ai pas choisi ça. Et en même temps, je suis curieuse. C'est pas curieuse, mais en même temps, d'après mon éducation et tout, je voudrais créer plus de conscience chez l'enfant parce qu'on est conscient, mais des fois, on choisit pas d'être conscient. Donc, ça dépend de l'entourage, du système, d'éducation et tout. Et l'enfant, comme il se contracte, comme tu as parlé beaucoup sur le sexe, sur comment se traiter, comment les parents te disent les choses, et comment nos parents nous disent est-ce que faire ou ne pas faire. Est-ce qu'en relation d'être indépendant des choses, des gens, indépendant on est capable
Wait, Asma, one second. Let Severine translate some of that. I'm getting a lot of it, but it's a lot for her to remember, and then we'll keep going. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Alors, j'écoutais, je me disais quand est-ce que je vais lui dire pause parce que ça marche. Donc, je vais résumer, tu vas me dire si j'ai bien saisi ce que tu m'as dit.
Okay.
Donc, tu as dit que tu n'avais pas d'enfant, mais que tu n'avais pas choisi ça pour le moment, mais que ce qui t'intéressait, c'était à créer plus de conscience avec les enfants et pour les enfants. C'est ça?
Je fais des ateliers pour enfants, comme ça sera clair. Oui.
Yeah,
j'écris des histoires.
Oui.
D'accord, génial. Ok, merci, super. Alors, so she doesn't have kids, but she's interested in kids, and she's interested in creating and facilitating more consciousness with kids and for kids, because she's writing stories for kids and she's doing workshops for kids.
Awesome. What do the workshops entail? What kind of workshops for kids?
For example, in my stories, dans mes histoires, j'écris des choses que j'apprends moi, du développement personnel. J'ai fait du développement personnel avec Access, les outils d'Access ou autres. Tu peux traduire comme ça?
Yes, oui.
Okay.
So she's writing stories with the personal growth she's exploring, so Access Consciousness tools also.
Et en même temps, dans les ateliers, j'ai fait des ateliers avec les enfants dans une école et j'apprends j'apprends aux enfants de reconnaître leurs capacités et de travailler en équipe, en harmonie, sans se comparer les uns aux autres. On crée de la compétition chez eux. On peut créer de la compétition, mais qui est contributive pour eux, pas en se comparant, comme dit Gary, la compétition qui nuit l'autre personne, mais la compétition qui encourage les uns aux autres. Donc, ça, à travers le jeu.
So she's using games. She's doing the workshops in schools, and it's the invitation of collaborating, working together, not comparing, no comparison between each other. So the only competition is the competition that is creating more and not playing against us and against each other. So that's what she's inviting through games and tools.
Okay. So ideas for how to work with the kids. Yes, that's a lot. I've done multiple calls on this topic, but one thing, how old are the kids that you're working with?
L'âge, tous les âges, j'ai pas de souci.
Okay.
Donc, les bébés, les ados, surtout les ados, parce que les enfants, nous, on travaille plus avec les adultes qu'avec les enfants. Donc, alors que les enfants et les adultes, les ados.
So teenagers and adults most of the time.
But, mais c'est pas mais parfois, comme elle a dit dans la question que Julie a lui posée, c'est des fois je trouve de l'inconfort. Des fois il y a avec des écoles ou autres ou des centres qui veulent pas. Ils veulent seulement avoir les activités ils choisissent pas. Je perçois que des fois ils ne veulent pas la conscience. C'est juste faire comme tout le monde. Tu vois, les activités comme tout le monde. Et vraiment, maintenant, je fais une pause pour revoir les choses. Comment créer plus de conscience et d'aisance pour moi et pour les autres.
So she's what she's aware of is that adults are asking for those activities, but they are not really asking for consciousness. They are just asking those activities to do like the others are
Entrer
doing.
dans la boîte. C'est rentrer dans la boîte plutôt que...
It's like to be in the box, and she's wondering now she's having a break from all those workshops, and she's wondering how to have more ease and how to open more consciousness for her and also for the people, to invite them in a different possibilities.
Yes. Okay, great. So are you willing to get the money from the people who don't want consciousness? Here's the thing, that the more money you have, how much easier would it be for you to have the workshops and the classes and the schools that you'd like to create for the kids that are asking for it. A lot of the parents and the teachers I work with are not interested in empowering children, are not interested in consciousness. That doesn't mean I don't work with them. I just only tell them and say what they can hear, what they can receive in that moment. And a lot of times you have to work with them and beyond them to have access to the kids who are asking for you, who, if you are there, will create more for them. And every child and every person that child interacts with after you. But if you don't get to have access to the kids, you can't invite them and empower them to have tools that they might not have otherwise.
J'utilise.
So I talk to whatever.
Pardon, moi j'utilise pas
Wait. Wait 1 second.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
So here's the thing. Be willing to receive the money from whoever, so that you can have the money for you and for these kids that you would like to help. Now, there's an exception to that, right? Now, if you are going to get the money and they're going to give you all these conditions and all these stipulations that is going to be completely counter to what you know is going to create more, don't choose it. But there's a lot of people that they're like, oh, tell me this information. And you tell them, and it's going to sound like, wah, 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 wah. And it's going to go right through, but they paid you the money. And they might, but here's the thing. Some of it might be wah, wah. And then there's this one thing that you say that plants a seed that will grow at whatever speed they're willing for it to grow. And we can't control how quickly it grows. I worked at a daycare 10 years ago. I did a staff training at this daycare. It was like 20 teachers 10 years ago. And now the director of that daycare is calling me and following me and using all these tools. Back then, she heard some of it and she was very grateful. And it was to check off a box for the bureaucracy, and they needed credits. I think that's somebody else's background noise, Julie. But then over time, those little ideas that I told them about then, in a way that they could hear. I didn't say consciousness. I didn't say, I spoke to them. Actually, this was in Spanish. I spoke to them in Spanish in a way that they could hear. And then now they ask more questions. And when they start asking more questions, then you can give them more and more and more. So I wouldn't give them your full program, all your exercises from the beginning. Give them a taste and then see what else they ask. Because what they ask is what they're willing to receive. And also be aware that put your name on everything. If you have a program and all these workshops, trademark it, get it copyrighted, whatever it is, but also know that you can't really sell or steal consciousness. Like, let it spread. Okay. Now you are going to add something else.
Yes, thank you. Ok, thank you. J'ai perçu ce que tu nous as dit à travers le Zoom, et en même temps, c'est ça, c'est de jouer avec les choses. Moi, je ne suis pas facilitatrice comme ça, en éclair, c'est ce que je voulais rajouter, je ne suis pas facilitatrice pour le moment, mais en même temps, comme tu as dit, j'utilise des mots, des choses qui sera facile pour les enfants et pour aussi de faire collaborer, comme tu as dit, de recevoir l'argent même avec les gens qui ne choisissent pas. C'est juste jouer. Peut-être à un moment, je n'ai pas choisi ça, mais pour le moment, pour ouvrir aussi pour moi et pour les autres. Donc, du coup, ce n'est pas juste créer plus, c'est créer plus de conscience, mais en même temps, créer plus d'argent. C'est qui permet de créer plus de conscience. Pour moi et pour les autres.
Attends pour Séverine parce que
I'm gonna do the sign. Wait.
Alex. En fait,
j'accélère moi.
C'est clair que plus tu vas en dire, plus je vais devoir retenir. Mais pour pouvoir retenir, je vais devoir laisser une partie de ton message s'en aller, ce qui est très frustrant pour moi. Après, je dois le livrer.
Non, c'est pas. C'est easy.
Ok. Donc en fait, she wanted
me
to
saying wait.
She wanted to mention that she's not a facilitator, but yes, what you were saying was resonating for her, as it's more about having the money, receiving the money, and playing with the different possibilities. And yes, that receiving money will create more to do what she would like to do. J'ai résumé.
Yes, cool.
Because here's the thing.
Merci.
And we can definitely, I'd like to open up to if anyone else has any other questions.
Okay.
We can definitely talk more about how to tease this apart and how to use the tools, because you can just be the energy of the tools. You don't actually have to do the clearing statement of access. You don't have to do any clearings at all when you're doing these workshops and trainings. The kids don't it a lot of the times. Or you're doing it in your head, the clearing, while they're bringing up stuff. But it really depends on what types of workshops and trainings you're doing. That's why I'd like to, I could probably give you some more specific ideas if I knew a little bit more about what you were doing with the kids. But the key to ask them questions, to not judge yourself for the awareness that you're getting about them and the adults that they're working with, and for you to be willing to receive the judgment and those interesting points of views and let it just flow right on through so that you know what's true for you and what's going to create more in any given moment. So I can't tell you all the interesting things that I've been told about bodies and children and education and learning and so many things. And I'm just like, So here's what I have found to be effective. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you've considered this. And I just kind of throw some ideas out there, and it kind of goes in their world. And then I go, bye. Okay, see you later. So a lot of that is just listening, and they'll tell you what they're willing to hear, Steve. And that's probably the thing that has shifted the most, because as you guys can tell, I love to talk. And now I'm learning more and more, especially in the last 2 years, truly how much more you can find out and perceive when you're willing to play with silence and when you're willing to listen way more. And the kids, they know this. Man, do they know this. And my students who are nonverbal are the ones who really taught me that, the value of the silence. Because they're sending all these messages to me psychically, and I'm like, man, you're getting everything that's going on in this room right now, and you're not saying a peep. I'm going to have that my way. Got it. And it's been showing up. So learn to be more quiet, and the people will tell you what they can receive and how you can contribute to them or not.
J'avais une question et après on laissera quand même Marie et Manuel poser des questions. Je voulais savoir... Pardon, excuse-moi. Je voulais savoir par rapport à ton atelier créature fantastique, est-ce que c'était à la base lié aux enfants? Ça a toujours été pour, si on peut dire, pour les grands enfants, pour retrouver son enfant intérieur? Je ne sais pas si c'est compréhensible.
Moi, je comprends parce que je suis l'aventure depuis sa création. So, about fantastical creature, is it something you created that was especially for kids, or has it always been about for grown-ups, adults that are like kids that are grown-ups, but to connected to our inner child? Or is it something different?
Okay.
Après,
so, I created the fantastical creatures with Sailor Shining Star, who has now chosen to interact with the tour in a different way. But it came from a conversation about acknowledgement of what we're aware of between the seen and the unseen within us and all around us. And so that was the case when we were kids. And that's absolutely the case now. And for some people, they are, as adults, willing to play with fantastical creatures, with entities, with spirits, with all of their gifts and capacities. And there are some people that they started shutting that off as children. So it's for children. Yes. It's for adults. Yes. It's for the adults that have the childish enthusiasm, and for the adults that don't have a childish enthusiasm for life, but would like it again more, because they get it would create a more amazing, fun, oh God, I get to have this life. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so we actually didn't create it for any particular age.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever get to play with Sailor, she'll agree with you. She'll agree with me on this. For all of our classes, for all of our events, even if it's about sex, I always click in my registration, children are welcome. There's never a time where I'm like, this topic is off limits and you can't bring your children. Or I just adapt how I say things. If I know children are around, I would really like it for parents to know that children aren't a reason for them not to choose something. I have a lot of friends and family and clients that they use the fact that they have kids to say, well, I can't have a business because I have these kids. Or I can't work out as much as I would like. I have to take care of my kids. Or of course my sex drive is down because of and they use the kids to justify what they're willing to choose and not choose, what they're willing to have and receive, and what they're not willing to have and receive. And so for all of my classes, including the fantastical creature classes, everybody's welcome. Anyone who would like to play with fantastical creatures, including them. First, we are the fantastical creatures. Are you willing to be fantastic with everything that you've always known was possible?
Thank you.
And then what if we could actually all together create that?
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Marie? I think that was from Marie, right? That question?
Marie, Emmanuel, and Danae.
Oh, everybody.
que tout le monde puisse poser des questions, je veux dire.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. Well, thank you, everyone.
Marie, Emmanuel, Danae, est-ce que vous avez une question? Vous pouvez ouvrir vos micros. Ou quelque chose à dire?
Everyone's like, why does she keep bringing up sex? Yeah,
No,
I get that.
I don't have any question, but I'm really grateful for all you've been saying. And it's kind of opened up so much for me. I can't say, I don't have words to say what, but it's really brings so much possibilities, especially with kids. I don't have kids. I'm not planning to have yet. But it's fun for me to be around them. And well, I just spent 6 days working in a school, and it was kind of really an interesting experience because it's all about putting kids in a box and they have to do what the grown-up says. And I was, okay, interesting point of view. So yeah, thank you, really.
And there are a lot of tools that you can give these kids because they're aware that these adults are trying to put them in boxes, be it their parents, the teachers, their doctors, so many people. And those very kids, many of them will act out because they don't want to be in a box. Who wants to be in a box? And so what we can do as allies to these kids, as educators, and as their friends, for many of them as well, is we can actually give them the tools to know what's going to work for them so that they can out-create all of the adults in their lives. And many of them already are. So for a lot of the teenagers, I start off with, do you get that you're faster than all of these teachers? Do you get that you're smarter than all of them? Do you get that you're fill in the blank, more creative? Like whatever is true with this child, you know, each child, it'll be something different. When you start from there and they start acknowledging oh, wow, it's because I'm awesome. Okay, now how am I going to use that awesome to create your life, even if they're trying to do this or that or that, even though they're saying this about you. And I have so many examples of how that's transformed the kids' lives. So you can be that. You can even whisper it pss, 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 on the side in the hallway, and then they'll be like, oh, thank you. And then they'll look to you, and you can give them a little wink in the hallway the next time you see them, and they'll know, yep, we're both awesome. This is ridiculous. Let's move on. So thank you for being that for the kids of the world.
Emmanuel?
Any other questions?
Non, merci beaucoup pour tous ces éclaircissements et moi ça continue, enfin ça ajoute à tout ce que je fais déjà et le fait de, je trouve aussi que quand on est avec des enfants, le fait de baisser ses barrières et d'être juste soi, sans être l'éduc, le psy, enfin voilà, juste être soi, ça fonctionne beaucoup mieux et c'est pas toujours évident, mais chaque jour un peu plus.
Okay, sorry, I was cutting my mic to translate without Emmanuel, without the bump of the two spaces.
No explanation needed, honey. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So she was thanking you, and she was saying how much what you were sharing tonight was adding to what she was already knowing and receiving, and that she was aware how much lowering our barriers and being truly who we truly be, and not the educator, not the parent, not just being us, was key in being with kids and opening consciousness.
What's the book? You have a book, livre there? What's it? Is that the correct word? I'm mixing Spanish. Here we go.
L'oracle du peuple
Oracle.
animal.
Oh, that's perfect. I love it.
L'oracle des animaux. En fait, c'est un jeu de cartes qui s'appelle l'oracle des animaux. Et dessus, il y a plein d'animaux.
Oh, it's the card animals. Oh, can I share about fantastical creatures? Est-ce que je peux partager à propos des créatures fantastiques?
Ouais, et c'était rigolo parce que quand elle parlait des créatures fantastiques, ma fille Salomé était en train de dessiner une des cartes. Et la carte, c'est celle-là.
Oh, wow. That's so great.
Elle était en train de dessiner celle-là.
C'est quoi?
Oh, c'est un dragon?
Un dragon, ouais.
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
So, where you were talking about fantastical creatures, the daughter of Emmanuel was drawing a dragon, the card of this oracle.
On veut voir le dessin.
That's beautiful. It's a lot of dragons. One of our hosts for the Italy classes. Who's talking? Sorry, okay. That one of our hosts from the Italy classes, she's always talking to dragons, Loredana, and it's just funny. I was perceiving her energy here from the beginning. And she does a lot of things with kids too. So your daughter's very aware, but we knew that. Just to add one more thing, I'm glad that you're acknowledging how much you already knew and that this is adding to that. I'm really glad to contribute to you and your family with that. Still perceiving a lot of judgment. And so when you say to lower your barriers, start by actually softening and lowering your barriers to you. A lot of us, we think we have to lower our barriers to everyone else. And that's true too. But if we actually don't soften and start leaning into everything that we are, it doesn't matter if we are constantly trying to use all this energy to lower barriers so we can receive from everyone else? What if you can actually be even more fantastically you, with you, and then more with your kids and even more with everyone else? A little bit. Un peu. Okay. Awesome.
Marie? Marie, est-ce que tu es
Moi,
là?
je trouvais plus mon micro.
D'accord.
Non, j'ai pas de question.
Mais on te voit pas non plus.
Pardon?
On te voit pas.
Ouais, mais je suis un peu malade en fait.
Je suis à fond.
Elle avait demandé. Ah, pardon, il y a mon fils qui intervient juste à ce moment-là. Non, mais elle avait demandé en fait ce qui nous avait amené un petit peu dans ce programme. Et donc, oui, moi aussi, c'est parce que j'ai un enfant de 12 ans. Et j'ai travaillé avec des enfants. J'aime travailler avec les enfants. Et j'aimerais apporter plus de bienveillance dans l'éducation des enfants, dans l'enseignement.
Okay, so what brought her to this program was bringing more kindness and like, ok, je vais dire un mot parce que c'est ce qui me vient quand tu as parlé. Tu me corrigeras parce que ce qui me venait, it was like benevolent education, éducation bienveillante. But it's kind of a mix. Donc, c'est un peu ça. More kindness in education, so in schools, but also with kids in the everyday life.
Can I ask a question? How much do the children that you work with and play with love your voice?
Attends, j'ai pas entendu la fin de la traduction française. You're right?
You have an amazing voice.
Ah, ma voix.
And and how about if you actually use that to your advantage even more? There are some people that they'll just spend time with you and let their kids work with you, or just you can say whatever to them and they won't even hear a word, but they just want to hear your voice. And then they'll pay you money. And then what could you do with that money for yourself and for the kids?
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Marie dit que tu es institutrice, elle comprendra déjà.
Bah, disons que je suis un peu en stand-by, donc tu vois, je sais pas trop. I am a French teacher, but comment on dit en stand-by sur la touche?
Tu es en stand-by, mais pas vraiment.
So she's hiding like Julie and saying that her English isn't as good as it is, right?
Ah oui, en fait, t'es en train de faire comme Julie, t'es en train de dire que ton anglais il est pas si bien que ça, et puis en fait là tu te m'as parlé en anglais. Donc tu es en pause. So she's a teacher, but right now she's not working as a teacher. Et tu es en train de questionner. You're questioning all those things.
C'est l'institution qui ne me convient plus tellement.
The institution doesn't really work for her anymore.
I hear you, sister. So are you going to create your own thing? One of the things that I love is I am contracted and I work in all these different schools and school districts around the country. And so I get to pick and choose where I go. That's a beautiful photo, Emmanuel. Thank you for sharing that. And there is also this choice of, okay, and I can leave at any time. And I also, by not being in the school full time, I'm not involved in all of the drama and the gossip and the pettiness that can happen there, but I can still contribute to the staff and the students and then go be like, okay, bye, I'm over here. So maybe it's not one or the other. Maybe you can create your own thing that will work for you and be more sustainable.
Oui, en fait, c'est aussi les programmes qui sont lourds et moi, je n'ai pas plus envie de contribuer à créer du stress pour les élèves.
So the programs of, you know, what you have to teach to kids it's so heavy now, and she doesn't want to contribute to adding more stress by teaching that way, by teaching those programs.
Okay. You don't have to. And sometimes you can still use those programs and then invite kids to learn their way. And you just tell the schools and the bureaucracy, I'm doing this program, and you'll be addressing the content, but you might use other tools so that the kids get it faster and easier because they're working with you, someone who won't judge them, someone who won't make them feel wrong, and someone who's actually going to listen to what they require. Maybe. Or to something totally different in a different way. I'm sure you have many capacities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Est-ce que quelqu'un va encore ajouter quelque chose? Parce qu'il est déjà presque 9h30, la pauvre Séverine.
Yeah, I think Sabrine has to get going.
My son is playing downstairs.
Ah,
Mon fils est en train de jouer en bas. So I was just, hey, I'm coming back. I'm translating something. I'm coming back right after. Je disais après, bon, je vais traduire un truc et puis je redescends juste après.
Quelqu'un
Here's
va
a
quelque
great
chose?
example of how you can do business and still have kids. I love that, Sabrine. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's the path I'm choosing. And I had to choose it. Like it was like pushing me to choose that. So this is something I created, obviously.
Anything else, Julie?
Moi non, je demande aux filles. Bonjour. C'est my husband.
I was just going to be like, I'll have that my way. I wasn't going to question who it was. I was like, I'd like kisses. Where's this lovely person right now?
Il revient du travail. He's coming to work.
Oh, that's nice.
For the
That's
work.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Feel free to message me and send questions. Savarine and I had talked about the possibility if any of you would like to have any business coaching or family coaching sessions, that if we can coordinate schedules with Savarine to translate, that we could do that. And I'm actually willing to do 45-minute free sessions with anyone here and give you guys some more specific tools if you'd like. And so I'll coordinate that with Savarine, and we can do little messages that way. Okay?
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
En tout cas, c'était très inspirant, très secouant, surtout avec les enfants et le sexe.
So you would like that?
Very...
Okay.
Ah, tu aimerais en avoir plus, ok?
Non.
Be careful what you wish for, because I'll go and I'll keep going. I did a 5-part call, and we didn't even get to everything. And it was 5 parts, and it was called How to Talk About Sex Without Ruining Your Kids' Sex Lives. And nobody on the call actually that were able to participate live had kids living with them anymore. The kids were older, or they work with kids, or all these different ways that can show up. And only the people getting the play were the ones that actually had the kids. Funny enough, they were busy with the kids, so they couldn't be on live, but they would send in questions, and it was an interesting combo. And it was really intense. From the first call, everyone's like, this is bringing up so much stuff from my childhood that I haven't looked at, that's influencing me even now. And there are people 50s, 60s, let alone younger than that. So we can play some more. We can create something else if you all would like to talk more about that. Ask and you shall receive.
En tout cas, un énorme merci. C'était vraiment, voilà, c'était waouh.
Thank you too. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone. Thank you for your questions and keep in touch.
Je sais plus si j'avais expliqué. Ton cadeau, en fait, c'est que tu reçois le replay vidéo et audio que tu peux utiliser comme bon te semble. Donc, si tu souhaites l'utiliser en entier pour la promo ou faire un montage, tu peux revenir vers moi. Mais c'est vraiment, je le dis à chaque intervenant, votre cadeau, c'est le replay. Si vous voulez le mettre sur une page YouTube, le faire tourner en entier, c'est votre choix, c'est votre cadeau. The gift of...
So you can use the replay if you want to use the replay of tonight for on YouTube or other pages on a website or anything. Just ask Julie; she'll send you the replays, and you can use them for yourself.
Beautiful. Or if you just send me the YouTube link, if you're gonna have it on your own YouTube, then I can just add it to my list that way. But if it's only downloadable, then I'll get it from you later.
Yes, it's downloadable. It's not something she's going to put publicly, so you can use it on your site. Nice. Can I talk about the beginning of January free call? Is it possible,
yes.
Julie? Est-ce que je peux dire aussi que pour les personnes qui veulent poursuivre avec Siris, elle fait un appel gratuit le 8 janvier?
Je crois que j'ai mis intéressée, je l'ai vu, et tu es français qui traduit.
C'est moi qui traduis
dans le groupe.
Super, parce que c'est gratuit, donc et ce sera encore sur un autre sujet, mais qui est toujours avec les créatures fantastiques.
Je l'ai vu passer, j'ai mis intéressée. Interesting. Ok, un grand merci. Je ne sais pas si les filles veulent dire quelque chose, mais juste un grand merci. J'ai beaucoup de gratitude pour tout ce que tu as apporté pendant le call et c'était en plus tellement diversifié. Je croyais que ça allait être une partie, mais ça a tellement parti dans tous les sens.
So she's very grateful and she wasn't expecting. We talked about so many various topics. She wasn't expecting. She was thinking, oh, it's going to stay in more or this area or this area, and actually we went everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, so that's how I work.
Thank you so much. I receive.
Désolé.
Okay.
So yes, the call that Severine mentioned, you're all welcome to join. It's on January 8th, and it's how can your fantastical awareness of all energies contribute to your money flows. And so we'll be playing with the fantastical creature energies, some of which are the Access Consciousness tools, but we also have shamanism and Reiki and theta healing and Tantra, so many different tools. So it's really about what tool is going to work for you, and you get to pick and choose whatever works. And what if all of that can make us money so that we can contribute to our lives and the lives to all these beautiful and wonderful children that we would like to empower.
Je partagerai l'événement dans le groupe Cap ou pas Cap, comme ça vous le verrez.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much, Siris.
Thank you.
Asma.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Merci.
Alors, je coupe.